Friday night, we're talking footy.
Hello everybody, a warm welcome to Talking Footy once again. A terrific round 6, but it has been dominated by the aftermath. Everyone's been looking west over the last 2 or 3 days at Damien Drum and the Fremantle administration. We'll be going there shortly, and our guest tonight is one of the hottest young players in Australia, the #1 draft pick from '99, Josh Fraser of Collingwood. Welcome to Robert Walls and Caroline Wilson as always. What do you think should happen to Damien Drum?
I think he should stay there. I think he should stay and coach the year out and finish his 3-year term, and then they make up their mind.
I think he should stick around till the end of the season. Why would anybody take on the job, Bruce, for the next however many games? It just seems to serve no purpose at all. I think the problems at Fremantle go a lot deeper than the coach.
Do you think he's got onto the front foot here? Sack me now or let me coach?
I was delighted to see that. I just thought it was terrific. Good to see a coach say, hey, sack me or back me. And it puts a bit of pressure back on the board because they either come out and sack him, or if they don't, or they've got to support him for the rest of the year. You can't say we will review it in another 8 weeks from now.
Three-quarter time, Chris Waterman on the left, ex-Eagle, assistant coach, Damien Drum on the right. Body language interesting here. They just led, they were under the pump. We were told that they implored the players to go man on man. They'd had 2 loose players, the Demons, and you can see Damien Drum and Chris Waterman on the left, and just their reaction during that fateful and disastrous last quarter.
It didn't look good when the 2 coaches were walking out on the ground. You just got the feeling that they were at loggerheads about some sort of strategy or decision, and I don't think that would have helped.
And Carrie and Robert, one of the things is they've been in a winning position in so many matches. Their last quarters have been just a disgrace, haven't they?
You just wonder, Bruce, if they'd beaten Carlton in round 1, how different would tonight be for us?
Well, no doubt, Caro, and those first 4 games, they only lost by 4 goals or less, and in the last 2, at three-quarter time, they were well and truly in it. So the coach has to be doing a lot of things right.
Have a look at the last 3 weeks. They've had 28 goals kicked against them in the last quarters and kicked just 5 goals for. So they're in a spot, there's no question about that. Let's go across to Adrian Barrett, who's right there now at Fremantle. It is a regular second Tuesday of the month board meeting, but there's nothing regular about tonight in Perth. Barrett, is there any idea as to where they're leaning towards or against Damien Drum right now?
Well, Bruce, just to explain the backdrop, the South Fremantle Footy Club is training here at Fremantle tonight, but behind them in the Fremantle headquarters, the 7 board members are meeting to discuss Damien Drum's future. Now, it could be that he could get dumped tonight, but the word is at the moment, and I think you'll see some pictures of some of the board members in there at the moment. They're having something to eat, so it can't be too dramatic just at the moment. The main players in this melodrama, Bruce, are some of the people that you would know very well, as well as Wolsey and Carolyn. There's Ron Alexander, former West Coast Eagles coach, who was dumped himself, knows a bit about getting the chop. And also, he was a Fitzroy champ, didn't quite make the team of the century. And Tony Bahajar, the football director, who, of course, was a Bombers champ and played for East Fremantle over here. They're the 2 main players. They're probably the guys that'll have the most input. Ross McLean is the chairman of the Dockers. But the word is strongly now that Damien Drum will remain. The only thing we don't know is just what sort of endorsement they'll give him. Will they say, right, we're going to back you for the last 16 games, go ahead, try to win some games? Or will they sort of be, you know, 50-50 about it and say, look, OK, we'll give you the OK now, but in another 8 weeks or 10 weeks, we want to check it out again. It was a tough decision for them. I think you guys summed it up beautifully. The major problem they had was they didn't have a viable alternative to as a caretaker coach. Once guys like Robert and David Parkin and that said that they weren't interested. And Robert, I've got to say, your support of Damien Drum weighed heavily on the mind here, and David Parkins today. I think David came out and absolutely slammed the media for having a go at Damien Drum and back Drum. That has made a major impact on the decision-making here. As you said, it's put the pressure back onto the board that they're going to have to sack him, and they don't want to look like a lynch mob. So at this stage, no viable caretaker. Ben Allen's name was thrown up. Former Brownlow medalist Ross Glendinning, he's the chairman of selectors here. He said, no, I don't want to do it. Drummy's my mate. His assistant coach is Terry Bright, you remember from Geelong. Damien Drum's best mate, so he also said that he wouldn't like to do that to his mate. So at the end of the day, Drummy's going to survive, and he is a champion fella. Let's hope he has a few wins, I guess.
Barrett, we may come back to you if Ross McLean actually comes out. Thank you very much for that tonight. Adrian Barrett at Fremantle. It looks like he will survive. After the Hawthorn game round 3, this was a prophetic comment, as it turned out to be, and also one that gave you an insight in just the pressures of a coach in the AFL.
This is an absolutely dog-eat-dog filthy, hard, horrible competition that we're a part of. And if you don't take your chances when they come, then no one's going to give you 1 ounce of pity.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm fascinated to know from you, Robert. I've never really asked you this. It seems to me that there is no worse position in football than being a coach who everyone says is going to get the chop. I mean, it seems to me that it's all that anyone is talking about. It must totally dominate your life.
I think people enjoy it. And imagine if you were Damien Drum and his family over there, knowing that the eyes of the nation are watching him as he goes to work today. Nobody else has to go through that sort of pressure, not even the Prime Minister. And at times I think that our coaches get overpaid. But when you see what's happening to Damien Drum and
what about yourself, though?
Oh, you don't like it, you hate it, and you hate the effect that it has on your family, your kids, your wife, your mother and so on, because, you know, whilst you think you can handle it, they shouldn't have to put up with that sort of, a lot of it's nonsense, but that's the nature of the game. And to think that they even have betting on who will be the first coach sacked, well, makes my blood boil.
It's a bit insensitive, isn't it, to have that. That was 3 weeks ago, that grab. Now, Damien Drum has spoken to Dennis Committee tonight, only a couple of hours ago, on 7 News in Perth. Let's see what he had to say.
Damien, what's your gut feeling about this meeting tonight?
I think it'll be business as usual tomorrow, Dennis, so that's my gut feel.
Well, let's talk about the players. Have you had expressions of support from those players?
The players have been very good. I mean, they surprise you sometimes in tough times, how they can, you know, put an arm around you and just sort of, from players that you wouldn't expect to offer support, so that's good.
Well, the players have been very good. They haven't been very good on the field for him. What about Terry Wallace and Dennis Pagan? I mean, what are the chances that, what would you need to get a coach from Victoria to go across?
I think Dennis Pagan would go and coach Fremantle, Bruce. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he coached them next year.
Really?
I've got no inside information that tells me that. I just have, like Damien Drum, I've got a gut feeling that he'd probably quite enjoy life in Perth and the challenge of picking up a club like Fremantle.
Caro, he came out only yesterday and said that he wants to coach his next year of his contract at the Kangaroos and hopefully continue on after that.
Well, of course he's going to say that. I mean, he has to say that, doesn't he?
Well, I don't know if he does.
I think, I mean, he's got a contract till the end of next year. The Kangaroos are in a dreadful plight. He's under a lot of pressure, but I think it would look dreadful now if he sort of made any sort of noises that he was going to cut short his contract. But my gut feeling is just the opposite.
Well, the other man, we mentioned Terry Wallace and Dennis Pagan. The other man that was talked about was and written about was David Parker, more in a director's role, I think, a football director's role. He was at the Windsor today for the press club, and this is what he had to say about a couple of issues. One about that article with him being linked to Fremantle, and also how he felt about the Damien Drum situation.
My advice would be to stay with the coach until the end of his tenure and take some time to make sure you select the right coach for who's ever going to take over. Is this the press club? Can I say something? I saw the worst article in Tasmania syndicated into a Tasmania paper that said by a fellow, I think Denham's his name, hope I've got that right, who wrote about me being interviewed within the last 4 or 5 weeks for that job, and I knocked it back for the second time. That is the greatest lot of crap I have ever heard since I've been in football. I'm absolutely offended by people continuing to write that.
Tell you what, lunches aren't...
He doesn't exaggerate, does he?
Hey, lunches aren't boring, that's for sure.
He's had the agri-pills in, David, but...
That was nothing, by the way. He kept going. He kept going on that topic for about another minute, and then ended up by saying, in new media, you've got a lot to learn and you're a disgrace. And Sheeds then said, and this won't surprise you, Robert, I, on the other hand, love the media. I love all of you, and I can't wait till my next press conference.
Yeah.
Do you think the media have been unfair on Drum in this instance?
Oh, I'm not sure that they've been unfair, Bruce, over here. I think the Perth media have. I think that there's a couple over there in the Perth media who've been gunning for Damien Drum from day one. I don't think they've given him any chance at all. But no, I think the Melbourne media, obviously they're interested in it because a sacked coach, that's always a big story. If they sack Damien Drum, it takes the heat off their players, and that's what annoys me, because then the players, it's a clean slate for them, and let's all start again, and can't be our problem because they've got rid of Neesham, they've got rid of Damien Drum, can't be our problem. And part of his problem is that his senior players aren't pulling their weight, and part of his problem is that it's 18 months away before blokes like Hazelby and Brown and Pavlich can take over leadership of that team.
What about the Dockers and the way they've set themselves up over the 5 or 6 years? I mean, have they got much to answer for, the way they've recruited, their administration, their choices?
Peter Bell has been, I think, quietly critical to people back here in Melbourne about some of the things he found at the club that he took on. Do you have a view about that?
Oh, look, I think Gerard Neesham, their first coach, Gerard wasn't interested in drafting of players. I think Gerard thought, give me 30 players and I'll make them into a good team, because he was so confident in his own ideas. I think that didn't help the team because they let players go. They should have had Peter Bell playing for them for the last 5 years. He did play his first 2 games of AFL with the Dockers. They couldn't keep Jeff White. They didn't take on Jeff Farmer. They let Andrew McLeod slip through their fingers. They could have had an Ottens or a Tarrant. Their recruiting has been pretty poor.
They've got some ground to make up. We may go back there if the chairman, Ross McLean, does come out and we have a definitive answer on Damien Drummond. It is looking good for him at the moment, certainly in the short term. Well, a year after the Dockers came in, Corey McKernan was the hottest player in the competition, but he can't get a kick, literally, and it's the truth right now. Boy, what do you do with him, Woolsey?
Oh, well, I think Dennis will know what to do with him. He'll know him better than anyone, but there's a few options. If he really is that down on himself, maybe he's pleading, I don't want to play league football for the next week or two. I don't want to be embarrassed by my poor form. Sometimes players actually want to be dropped to the reserve grade so that they can go back, take the pressure off and then build their way up. So maybe Dennis says, well, let's put you back in the reserves, play you at centre-half back, attack the footy, have 1 or 2 goals to aim for in this game, nothing more than that. It
seemed to work for Shannon Grant and Spider Burton last weekend, didn't it? But is it the right tack to take to drop a bloke like Shannon Grant, who's never been dropped since he's joined the club, and perhaps tell the other players to have a look at this bloke's face because it could be you next week?
And you believe that happened?
Well, I think it did, yep. I think that's what happened.
This was a training, was it? At training?
Last Wednesday night.
Oh, well, coaches try all different ways and
don't we know that, Woolsey? We've discovered that in the last 2 weeks, haven't we?
Want to share a couple of your ideas?
That's right. Look, it is an interesting one with Corey. Confidence is such a huge thing in football and in life, and obviously his confidence is rock bottom at the moment.
We all want to see him do well. I think we're all pretty... I think sad might sound like we're being condescending, but I think we were sad for him on Friday night. The tribunal tonight, good results in terms for the clubs. Jonathan Hay got off, Dean Rice got off, and Justin Mooney got off from Geelong, and the wrestling, there's a fine there for McLeod and Hay. Ackermanis is up tomorrow. 2 incidents that didn't get to the tribunal were obviously looked at. Clint Bizzle on Jason Ackermanis.
Well, that's certainly a hit to the head, and you could argue that it was a charge in on the player who was over the football. So he wasn't cited for that, and that's interesting.
Should he have been?
I think he should have. I think he should have. Now, I'm not saying he should have been found guilty, but I think he should have been brought up and have a look at it.
Colonial?
Well, that's Wayne Schwass hitting young Chad Davis. I was at that game, and again, I think Wayne had a case to answer.
Was he hit in the chin, Robert?
I'd need to see the video. I've been told that there was contact to the chin. So if there's contact to the head, that's when I think the player has a case to answer.
The dancing suit, the Centenary Federation match between Carlton and Collingwood, Jimmy Barnes Senior and Junior out there, and there's Brad Cooper with the blonde hair on the board, and a couple of other, or at least one other board member that we know is there for Collingwood. Is it true that the AFL have actually written to Collingwood and asked, please explain why these blokes were out there? I mean, they're probably making pretty big fools of themselves, but I mean, why would you write to the club?
Football must be in pretty good shape, Bruce, if the AFL have got time to write letters to a board member. I think Alex Waslitz was also there, a board member. I think the other blokes were sponsors who somehow conned their way onto the ground through the Collingwood board members. But, I mean, I ask you, I think they were also questioning Collingwood why Patrick Smith was from the Australian, the journalist, was in the coach's box. Well, can't Collingwood have whoever they want in the coach's box?
I can't believe that, Cara. I just can't believe that Patrick Smith, and I've enjoyed reading his articles on the inner sanctum at Collingwood, the AFL have said to Collingwood, give us a please explain why Patrick was there.
Well, I won't say the AFL are trivial, but I think people can judge for themselves.
Just quickly, the website, the AFL website, we do believe today that they were running a poll about Damien Drummond, whether he should be sacked or not. When our producers tried to get onto that poll, or that website later tonight, the poll had gone. But
if it's so, it's a disgrace.
Well, you've said it makes your blood boil. I mean, this is an ongoing question, though, more seriously. What's the role of the AFL website? A few weeks ago, they were running stories about an alleged racist remark made by David Schwartz, and the Melbourne president is still being investigated, Joseph Gutnick, for commenting on those said remarks. Well, so when they're already plastered all over the AFL's website.
Should it be a mouthpiece or should it be independent?
Well, I think
question.
everyone should be independent, but it is sort of Pravda, isn't it?
Well, sort of Pravda. Gee, we're going back a bit, aren't we?
Who did he play for?
Well, he was in Russia, and I think he was in the back pocket for a long
right.
time. Josh Fraser coming up after this, and boy, is he hot, and the Maggies are going pretty well. Looking forward to talking to him.
We're talking footy.
Welcome back to Talking Footy. Our guest tonight is the Collingwood young ruckman, the young star, Josh Fraser, who joins us. 19 years of age. You might be the youngest person who's ever sat on that couch, Josh. Welcome to Talking Footy, mate.
Thanks for having me.
You've had 3 incredible weeks, haven't you? I mean, 6 weeks into the season, the last 3 weeks, Richmond on a Friday night, which is sort of the showcase match, followed by the Anzac Day match, followed by the Centenary of Federation. You must pinch yourself a bit.
It's luxury of playing with Collingwood, I guess. The 3 blockbusters, all in the space of 3 weeks. So it's terrific from a club point of view, and for us to get a win on the weekend to basically cap those 3 matches off was terrific.
Average crowd of about 78,000, Josh. It's a long way from Mansfield.
It's a very long way from Mansfield, yes. I don't think we have 8,000 people in Mansfield, so the extra 70 certainly makes it enjoyable. But as I said, it's terrific from a club point of view, and for the supporters to get along and enjoy their footy, and for us to get a win was terrific.
Just how important, we've said it's important, but it got close in the last quarter again. I mean, you've been tantalisingly close against Richmond and also against the Bombers, and it looked as if Carlton might take it from you. I mean, what was rushing through your mind in those desperate minutes?
Oh, look, it was, as you've alluded to, it was a huge occasion, not only from a win-loss point of view, but we unveiled a new sponsor during the week, TAC, and we were trying to drive that message home on the day as well. And a huge crowd, young team again, and Carlton, who are great respect for. So it was a big occasion, and we got away with a win, but that last quarter was certainly on the edge of the seat stuff.
It's interesting when you look at Collingwood's form generically. I mean, the teams that have beaten this year are hot. I mean, their form is... We're talking probably with Port Adelaide thrown in, the 4 form teams in the comp, and in every one of those matches, they have had a very good chance of winning.
I think the style of football is the thing that appeals, Bruce. It's just so much play on and attractive. And, inside 50 in losses. Yeah, they're certainly moving the ball quickly. And, Josh, the skill level of the team, to me, in the last 12 months, it seems to have improved, well, 20%.
I think it had to. I think that was probably the thing that let us down a little bit last year, and particularly in 3 or 4 games where there's probably a kick or 2 kicks in it that made the difference. So we worked pretty hard over the pre-season on our skills and tried to maintain that during the season, and I think it's paying off in the games for us.
But there's definitely been a feeling in the last couple of weeks that the turning point has come. We can't tell it's a turning point yet because we can only look back, but Mick was, after the Essendon game, said this is a turning point for the club, and I've never seen him so happy after a win than after the... I don't think I've ever seen him sing the club song since he's joined Collingwood.
I think the significant thing from that was the praise from Kevin Sheedy as well. I mean, coaching against us that day and the way he came out and basically thought the way we handled ourselves in that game was terrific. So players drew a lot of confidence from that, and I mean, we've known all along that we can be a very good side. We've just got to continue to persist at it and play good football. Speaking of handling yourselves in that game, you were involved in some very interesting incidents. One on the death almost, on the siren. I mean, there's been a lot talked about a clock at the ground, players knowing. I mean, would that have made any difference to you at this point when you look back on it?
There were 40 seconds on the clock there, Josh, when you've taken that mark.
Yep. Had I have known, I definitely would have gone back a lot quicker and well, tried to kick the goal. But look, I think if you put a clock there, it detracts a little bit from the spectacle for the spectators' point of view. I mean, they're on the edge of their seats at this point of the game, and they're obviously enjoying their footy, and they don't know how long there is to go. And
did any of your teammates speak to you at this occasion to say, hurry it up, there's not much time?
No, only Bucks just quickly mentioned, put this one through. So that was basically it. But as history shows, I didn't, and we'll live and die by the sword, I suppose. They tell me at the club you're pretty tough on yourself, that you were tough on yourself after that, and you were even tough on yourself after the Carlton game. Oh, definitely, yeah. I suppose I'm probably my own biggest critic at times. I set my standards too high, and yeah, I just like to set high and achieve, and I just think probably the last couple of weeks I've made a few silly mistakes, so I've got to try and rectify that.
Josh, that was maybe one of them when the ball just ran away from you. Now, the Bomber players really let you know about this, didn't they?
They did. I was waiting for them to come, actually, so nothing I didn't really expect after making that sort of mistake, and as you see, the second one was just, looking back, was a bit ridiculous. But as I say, I'll live and learn by that. And yeah, 2 goals probably would have won us the game in the end.
The Essendon players are certainly getting into you verbally. Justin Blumfield, was that... I wasn't sure when I saw that whether he was saying, look...
No, he was letting me know about the kid.
He was giving it to you?
He certainly was, yeah.
Oh, I thought I might have given him the benefit of the doubt, being a nice bomber boy, but he was sticking it to you.
He was.
How did you resist not giving him one? I mean, he's right in you there, isn't he?
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard, but I mean, it was very early in the game, and I think it was still 3 quarters to go, so I had to try and refocus and get back to the centre because I was in the ruck at that stage and try and get out of the middle.
Last year, you suffered some bad defeats after winning your first 5 games, and one defeat against Melbourne irked you a bit, didn't it?
It did.
You're 19 now, that's right. You were 18 then. I think you'd played 14 games of footy. And we read that you actually stood up at the end of that loss to Melbourne. I think the next week, had you lost to St Kilda, it would have been a club record string of defeats. Yeah. And 18-year-old Josh Fraser spoke to his teammates about how it just wasn't good enough. Yeah,
well, it's a bit hard to explain. I was very lucky to be playing my first year. I didn't expect to be playing. And once I suppose, cemented my spot in the team in the first 3 or 4 rounds, I considered myself a vital part of that team, along with the other 24 blokes, 22 blokes that run out on the day. So, yeah, I felt as much as everyone, and I felt that I should have my say, and I did. And everyone else did. It wasn't just myself that got up. There was quite a few blokes that spoke after that game. And yeah, history shows it might have had a little impact. We came out and won the week after. And
you played well, and you kicked a very important goal the week after. It was an MCG Friday night game. I mean, it was a bad night for St Kilda and a good night for you guys.
Yeah, it was, well, as you say, the pressure was on. I think if we had lost this, it would have been a record string of losses for the club. So, I mean, the pressure was right on us, and it was a credit the way we fought it out that night.
Josh, you had a black armband on that night. I don't think any other Collingwood player had one on. Yep. I mean, what was the story behind that?
That was just a little mark of respect for a friend that was that passed away during the week. And, yeah, just, as I said, I didn't really want to make a big deal of it, so I just asked the club if it was okay to do that, and they said it was fine, so I went ahead with it.
You are community aware, aren't you? I mean, you're working with people that are having problems at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. The Life's a Ball program, I think it's run, I think most clubs have 3 or 4 players in it, and just recently the TAC has come on board, so we're going to do some work with them in sending home the drink drive message or the speeding message around schools, and obviously with your family and friends. So.
If you don't mind me asking, it's amazing that a 19-year-old can sit here and speak as well as you do about footy, and you'll obviously answer any sort of question. I've heard you on radio, similar. You managed to get the sponsor's name in a couple of times too. Well done.
Caro, ask the question.
Do you do media training? Have you done much media training? And that's obviously something that Robert wouldn't have done.
I've actually got to give a little bit of credit to my management group here. They, when I got drafted, we sat down and did a little bit, and the club has a little policy on media training where you're required to do some. But, I mean, football, you've got to be able to be confident in front of the camera and talk to people, and it's part and parcel of the game, something that I enjoy, and hopefully down the track might be able to get involved in something like this.
Josh, what do you admire about your coach and captain?
2 of the best leaders ever seen. I thought Nathan on the weekend was absolutely sensational, and I don't think I've never been involved with a leader that was that determined to win, and has been since I've been there, that determined to succeed. And Mick's just a terrific generally, the way he can relate to the young players around the club, myself included, and gives players a lot of confidence, and is really looking to develop players. It's just sensational.
I think he surprised all of us, and you did too, by playing all but 1 match last year. I mean, physically, how tough was that on your body? And the match you didn't play, I'm not even sure if you were injured at the time or just fatigued.
Had a hamstring.
Oh, you had a hammy, did you? You got over it quickly.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it wasn't a severe hamstring, but just enough to keep me out for the week. So, but yeah, as you said, I didn't expect to play all last year, and I think probably the first 5 or 6 weeks I was running on a bit of adrenaline. But just enjoyed my footy last year, obviously not winning, but just really enjoyed my football and set myself a big second year.
Josh, what percentage would you ruck at this stage?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. I haven't done a lot this year. I think that's due to Steve McKee. I think he's been outstanding for us. And Steve will be the first to admit last year wasn't a great year for him, but it's a credit to him the way he worked over the pre-season, and his ruck work's been terrific for us, which has allowed me to go forward on occasions and relieve him in the ruck when it's needed. So that's a credit goes to him. I'd say I've probably done under half of the ruck work this year.
I don't know if there's much rivalry between you players, but certainly among the media, there's a lot of comparisons.
Yeah.
Mike Sheehan's said that you've come on better than Brad Otten's at the moment. There's Michael Gardner, Rewalt at St Kilda. Do you sort of look at that, you young blokes? And
I actually don't. No, I don't take a lot of notice. I mean, I might read it flicking through the back pages, but I don't really take a lot of notice. I've got my own expectations, and at the moment they're very club orientated in terms of what we can do this year. I mean, I don't know what our limit is this year. And
did you read the Otten's comparison?
I didn't know. I'll be honest, I didn't read that.
There was a situation on the weekend that it's quite amusing in a way. It's the Mark Richardson goal in the end. Brodie Holland was got the frigate. You obviously know something about it.
Richo's let us know about it.
Oh, Richo has. Okay, now what happens? Nathan Buckley wants to take the free kick. He actually got hold of the ball. Brodie Holland can't. There's Richo. Buckley's telling Andrew McKay, well, he'll kick it, he'll kick it. Watch this. Now, I can't tell you what Andrew McKay says, but I reckon you're going to guess. He did. Now, you have a look at Ian Bucks. Look, Bucks has given it to him. Oh, there you go, Andy.
That's terrific confidence shown in Richo by Bucks, so I'm not sure if I was in that position I'd be backing Richo in, but it was a terrific kick, and as I said, he's alluded to it early in the week, and he'll certainly do that for the rest of the week.
You should have been in that position. You were the closest one there.
Nowhere near it.
Have a look now. Richo's way off, up on the foreground. Josh, there's Holland goes down. Richo's not even in the picture.
Camera doesn't lie, Josh.
Buckley's not there, and look who just comes in so close. It's you. Should have taken the kick.
It's very hard to argue with the umpires in that situation, so we'll just let that one go. It was a great kick by Richo.
Did you actually know that it could have been your kick at the time?
I was quietly confident I might have had a kick, but that's the way it goes.
Okay.
All's well that ends well, Bruce.
Absolutely. It was a fantastic result. A fantastic result.
There'd be a lot of other players just about tear a hamstring trying to get there to take the kick, Josh. So,
well, I think Anthony Rockwell was probably our best option at that stage, and I couldn't find him. I was trying to call him over, but Richo certainly took it and surprised us all.
Josh, as always, your timing's impeccable, because after the break we're going to talk about A. Rocker and a couple of other players that might be either on the up or on the down. We'll take a break. Our guest tonight, Josh Fraser.
We're talking footy.
Examples in the last few weeks of blokes that are on the up and blokes that are on the down.
it can come and go very quickly, Bruce, and you know, Paul Hudson was one who in the first 3 or 4 rounds was on and off the bench and really struggling, and then his coach said to him, you will definitely start, you will play across half forward and you'll be given every opportunity. He said after he kicked 8 goals that knowing that he would start on the ground gave him a chance to visualise, to prepare, to get himself set for the game, and I've got no doubt that it helps.
Well, Dennis Pagan would be thrilled to bits, Josh, if the same thing happened to Corey McKern if he went back for a week in the VFL and came back like Anthony Rocker, because Anthony's come back charging, hasn't he?
He was terrific, wasn't he? It's I mean, I think in any form slump there's a confidence element to it, and there's no doubt with Anthony. But I mean, to see the way he went about his business in the 4 or 5 weeks that he was down, it's just tremendous. His attitude was first class, and the way his work rate on the track was sensational.
How's his reaction here? I mean, you almost feel like the confidence is oozing into the body again, don't you?
It was a bit of relief there, I think. You know, I think he really thought he was back, and the players responded to that, and we got around him, and just terrific to see a smile on his face.
I've got a bit of a theory on confidence, because I think players' confidence today can go down quicker than in the past, and that's because of the increased interchange. So coaches use the interchange bench far more than ever before. So players are on and off the ground. And at Essendon, as soon as a player comes off, he's spoken to by John Quinn, given support, given encouragement. But I just think that in the old days, a player was able to work through a hard period. Now they're on and they're off, and their stats are published every week, and people know exactly how they fared, even if they didn't see them play. So our players really do have that pressure on them.
And they're required to play different positions. I mean, if you can settle into a full forward role, you can usually get your confidence up with a few marks and goals, but if you're required to go up the field or even, as you allude to, come off the ground, it's a lot harder.
Have you ever had... Go on, Carl.
Oh, can you tell during the week if a player, if certain players are going to have a good day or a
Not with
bad day?
Anthony, because the way he went about it every week, I thought was going to be the week, basically. You know, his attitude was first, as I said, was first class, his work rate on the track. And it was a matter of time before it happened, and we were lucky that it happened on Sunday for us.
I was just thinking, lad, have you ever had a confidence slump? I mean, you're the best junior footballer in Australia.
Definitely. Have them frequently.
Good, you're human. That's terrific. At times Lloyd's inhuman because he's so darn good, isn't he? I mean, it was interesting on the weekend, he kicks 4 goals in 6 minutes and 10 goals in total. After the match, Essendon were presented with a cheque for $12,000. It was from a World Asthma Society to the Australian Asthma Society, $500 per goal. And there's a bit of byplay here between Sheeds and Matty Lloyd.
Do you reckon that you kicked 10 goals because of this, or do we need to do this every week for you to kick 10 goals?
When you leave me in the goal square.
See, Josh, when you're 22, would you say that to Mickey now, or would you be game enough?
I'd probably wait till I'm 22, I think, to say that, and hopefully I've kicked a few more goals by then.
It was just very interesting because I was at that game, and in the first quarter, Matthew Lloyd was forced to play upfield. I've got no doubt that Essendon decided that they'd take Wirrapunda and Matera back to the goal square. So that meant that Mercury was back in the goal square, Carousella in the goal square. So Lloyd plays across half forward. He got his first kick at about the 27-minute mark of the first quarter in Essendon's back pocket. Sheedy took him straight off the ground. Had a word to him, and then from the start of the second quarter on, he started from the goal square, and he took 13 marks, kicked 10 goals.
What's Gary Sidebottom and Fitzroy got to do with talking footy and confidence?
Oh, well, we were talking about confidence today, and Gary Sidebottom is the player that I enjoyed coaching more than any other player of the hundreds that I coached. And you'd remember Gary played for St Kilda, he was captain. He got traded to Geelong. When he went to Geelong, there were people there who didn't want him, and they didn't speak to him. And he had a terrible time down at Geelong. And that was in the days when clearances closed mid-season. So he came up to Fitzroy in June, and he was like a beaten dog. He couldn't look you in the eye. He was just destroyed as far as confidence goes. And we said to Gary, well, we want you to play for us. And he said, I don't want anything to play in the reserves. If I play in the seniors, I want my payment straight after the game. We said, well, fair enough. So we put him in the reserves that first week, and I said to him, come out to my place the next day, the Sunday night, with your wife, and come and meet my family and have a meal with us. Well, he turned up at about 5 o'clock Sunday night, went to his boot, pulled out a dozen bottles of beer, carted them in, and Gary and his wife proceeded to knock them over. And end of the story is that we just bonded that night, and for the next 3 years he was just a fantastic player at Fitzroy, and his confidence rose, he felt wanted, and the players loved him. And you can see players' confidence go up and down, and often it's just a wink or a word that can get a player going.
I'm not sure if Blighty offered a dozen for Stewie Lowe and Annie, his wife, but Stewie Lowe certainly was told that you'll be at centre-half forward on the weekend. It was a fairy tale come true, wasn't it?
Again, I was at that match, Bruce, and it was fantastic to see him play as he did. Stewie played at centre-half forward for the entire game. He kicked 3 goals in the first half. There was no doubt he was best of field. And I think to play your 300th game and perform like that is something that he'll never forget.
Yeah, it wasn't a romantic best on ground, was it? It was a real best on ground.
Absolutely BOG.
Yeah, it was terrific. It's certainly something that, being so young, I probably don't appreciate at the moment, the 300-game milestone, but I'm sure that if I'm lucky enough to get there, I'll be able to look back and remember particularly Stewie's effort on his 300. Sensational.
And the romance continues. Spud, Frawley, in the rooms talking to them before the game.
It's a terrific tradition, isn't it? I mean, Kevin Sheedy doing the same last year at Hawthorn for Paul Salmon, and the other, Richmond and Essendon, saying that's fine, it's a terrific thing, go and do it. Danny said he was going to talk about 3 things: courage, and he talked about the courage of actually standing under the ball 300 times and what that means, and respect. And then he finally just said, and now I want to talk about Stewie Lowe, and I want every one of you blokes at the end of this game to be able to look this man in the eye and know that you made his 300th one of his best games. And, you know, Rod Butters, the president, was crying, Max Hutchinson was crying, Spider Everett was crying.
Max has cried before.
Yeah, I don't think Spider does it all that often, and I think it was inspirational. So,
yeah, no.
and also Stuart Lowe's turnaround. I mean, on the Monday morning when I saw him for an interview, he was a man so down on himself. So it's great to think of what must have happened during the week at the club and what Malcolm must have said to him.
He's not the only bloke that lifted on the weekend. I mean, Fraser Gehrig played his best game for the club, no question, and the short time he's been there.
Well, that's another positional one, Bruce. He has been asking St Kilda. He said to St Kilda before they drafted him that he wanted to play, he thought he was a centre-half back and he wanted to play at centre-half back. You wonder if things had been different at West Coast, if a bloke called Jakovic hadn't been around, whether things might have been different now. They are so excited about Fraser Gehrig more than any other player at the club at the moment. So he's certainly one who's playing on confidence.
Oh, he's a terrific player, and he'll continue to outline his class as the year progresses, and the team gels together, I think, a bit more. But no doubt he's a talent.
No question about it. And you don't have to say sorry sitting in that seat. You can butt him whenever you like. That's part of the rules. A break on Talking Footy. Hope you're enjoying it. We'll be back after this.
talking footy.
Welcome back to Talking Footy. Our guest tonight, as you know, Josh Fraser. We have crossed to Fremantle earlier tonight, and things are looking reasonably good for Damien Drum at this stage. Let's go to Colonial for a moment. I know you were there, Woolsey, on both Friday night, Saturday, and in fact on Sunday as well. But the sun for Jason Saddington here in the match on Saturday was a major problem, wasn't it?
Well, it was, and it was hard to see the scoreboard there, but Josh, you get the sun at all grounds, don't you?
You do. It's, as I say, it's a bit of a catch-22 situation. It's something you can't, or you don't have the power to change wherever the sun is, so yeah, it's just unfortunate.
I know from a television point of view, it's a very hard thing to go from the shadows to the sun, and Kevin Sheedy's suggesting today that maybe the roof should go on for all matches there, particularly on a bright afternoon.
It's an interesting one. I wouldn't be against that, because at least you know what you're going to get.
The surface is a bigger issue though, isn't it?
Still an issue. I mean, we saw an instance on Friday night, John Blakey trying to get away from Richo and went from the good to the bad here in terms of the surface, didn't he? I mean, he copped the worst bit, down he went.
I think it flattered Richo a bit, that shot, didn't it?
Ball came out. Well, he chased hard and out it came.
Oh yeah, it was a good chase, but the ground clearly wasn't up to scratch, and you can see the difference between the new turf they've laid and they'll be replacing the bad turf this week.
We've actually played there earlier this year and went and had a look Friday night at North and Richmond. It was terrific. The ground to look at was terrific, the service, so hopefully it comes up on Sunday for us against the Kangaroos.
What's it like to go to the football for Josh Fraser, just go to a game?
It was exciting again. Coming from the country, I didn't get to do it a lot, and even when you start playing, you still miss it, and it's just a good opportunity to go on Friday night, and I must say I was very impressed with Matty Richardson. His work rate was sensational Friday night.
Do they leave you alone, the Tigers and Kangaroo supporters, when you're sitting there?
Yeah, we got under their guards. I think we got out without any coke or anything on our jackets. So it was
You've done really well. You've done really well.
We did well.
Is that another sponsor you're mentioning, or is that just coke?
No, just coke.
Oh,
yeah.
that's
very high calibre of supporters, the North and Richmond supporters, Bruce.
They are. Left footers at Richmond. There's 7, maybe 8 if you include Leon Cameron. I mean, take your pick, but boy, have they been a lethal weapon this year.
Well, they have, and there's Tivendale, and that was a lovely kick. It was low and flat and hard to Joel Bowden, and Joel Bowden from outside 50, he put it straight through. And I'm sure it does wrong foot the opposition when you've got 7 or 8 in the team, and they're all pretty good kicks. I won't say Duncan Callaway.
No, he's a left footer, but he does kick it occasionally. Jonathan Brown, who a contemporary of yours, I say contemporary, you're both about 19, 7 on the weekend. I mean, you played against him as a youngster, and I think played in a representative side with him.
He's terrific, Brownie. He's got a very physical presence around contests, and I mean, as you see, they're just out marking 2 opponents, and he's only going to get better. And if he starts running into some players, well, we'll do some damage. But it's a terrific effort by him. 7 goals is great.
Is he really strong? I mean, he looks powerful.
He's a very powerful boy. Very powerful boy.
His father, Brian Brown, of course, played with Fitzroy quite a few years ago, so he's from good stock.
An older but very powerful player, Nick Holland, is having the worst run imaginable. They'd nursed him and nursed him back. I mean, this is really hard to look at, to be truthful. Into Darren Jarman, absolutely accidental. Shoulder comes out, 4 to 8 weeks, maybe. I mean, it's awful. I mean, it really is.
Look away.
Ooh.
How tough would the Hawks be at the moment to beat with him in the team? Because they're pretty tough to beat without him.
Yeah, I mean, but suddenly he's gone from someone who they're going to have for a fair while to someone who they're not going to have until pretty late now, are they?
No, they'll miss him. He's a bit like you mentioned Stuart Lowe. He just gives the hard contest. He just keeps working hard, and they're hard to find players like that, so he's a definite liability now that he's out.
Well, Josh mentioned Richo's work rate. You talk about work rate, you talk about Nick Holland, don't you? There's no doubt about that. Back with more on Talking Footy in just a moment.
Tuesday night, we're talking footy.
Almost at the end of this Talking Footy program, just a couple of minutes to go. Josh, chipping around at the end, I mean, you've been on the receiving end of it and also been involved in it a bit. I mean, Hawthorn actually got caught out on the weekend. They were sitting on a 3-goal lead. There was about 2 minutes to go, maybe a fraction less. And Luke McCabe, in his 100th match, goes laterally, and gee, Andrew McLeod will make you pay, won't he? You don't see it happen too often.
No, and he's a dead-eye dick, this fellow. See if you can catch the Hawthorn supporter behind the fence. Oh, you can't, but he said, good one, Hawks.
It's an interesting topic. I think the clock once again comes into it. I think if players realise there's 3 minutes to go, you probably go more direct and try and sneak another goal. But, yeah, it's interesting.
How do you set yourself up for it when you're on the ground, when you're in front and it's late in the match?
It's very instinctive. It just happens. I mean, it's not... you get a sense of the game's near the end or a quarter's coming to an end and it just happens, and you've got to be switched on if you're the opposition to man up pretty quickly. But you really need someone out there to take control.
Do you have a view on the clock?
I think it should stay as it is. I think from a spectator point of view, if you have a clock there, you'll get half disinterested supporters that'll probably leave with 30 seconds to go, and then the other half will be basically celebrating. So I think it should leave as it is.
And Josh, they tell me that one day you'll be the next captain of Collingwood. Is that it's a prediction, but is it a dream?
It's not a goal set by me. No, definitely not. I'm quite happy with the captain we've got at the moment, and if he can keep playing like he did on the weekend, I'll be even happier with him. But oh look, if that eventuated, it'd be a great honour. But at the moment, I think team success is more important.
You are 10 years younger than him. There's a chance you'll be playing after he retires. As good as he is, he may be another Bradley Buckley. Russell Robertson, he's in a bit of what we just had to show this one. I mean, this is special. They haven't used that word for weeks. This is a good one. It's a throw, but who cares? I mean, it would have spoiled if they... Good umpiring, wasn't it, to let it go?
And what about that? That's backing your skills, and be hard to beat that for the goal of the year.
Do you reckon it was out, Josh, do you?
I'm not saying that. I'm not going to take away from the effort of Russell Robinson. Terrific goal.
Isn't he a typical half-forward flanker? 4 goals and a stroke of genius or not much?
Well, he plays a hit-or-miss position, and the last couple of weeks have been terrific for him, and his confidence is up.
So you got the Kangas this week?
We have.
And then off to Port Adelaide.
And off to Port Adelaide, a couple of tough games, but if we can get away with 2 wins, we'll be very happy.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Well, the Collingwood army's starting to roll, Josh, aren't they? Can you hear them out there?
I can hear them, but I'm trying not to take much notice. We've got to stick to our guns. So.
Been a pleasure having you on, mate. All the best.
Thanks very much.
You've got a wonderful future in front of you.
Thank you.
Caro and Wolsey, thanks once again. And I think appropriately we should leave with someone who's been around just slightly longer than Josh Fraser. His name's Stuart Lowe. It was a fairy tale come true. Let's hope it's not his last great day in footy. He deserves a bit more. Well done, Stewie.
Tuesday night, we're talking